In a world where words become a bridge between the soul and life, emerges a work that has transcended time and borders, touching hearts and awakening minds. The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. This text invites you to embark on an introspective and profound journey, guided by Gibran's poetic voice, whose words resonate with an eternal and universal truth. In a small coastal town, a wise and revered prophet named Al-Mustafa awaits the arrival of the ship that will take him back to his homeland after 12 years of exile. Before departing, the inhabitants, who have come to know and love him, ask him to share his wisdom on the great themes of life: love, marriage, children, freedom, pain, joy, and more. With serene eloquence and unparalleled spiritual depth, Al-Mustafa offers his reflections in the form of poems and discourses, which are both revelations and meditations. Each word is imbued with lyrical beauty and philosophical depth that invite contemplation and the most intimate understanding of existence. Prepare to be carried away by a voice that, like a gentle whisper of the wind, will guide you through the mysteries of being and the universe. Khalil Gibran, with his poetic prose, offers not only answers but also questions that will illuminate your path and resonate in your heart. Immerse yourself in the Prophet and discover a timeless message that continues to inspire and transform lives, an invitation to explore the depths of your own soul and to find the connection with the divine in the everyday. Welcome to a journey of discovery and revelation, where each word is a key that opens the doors to spirit and wisdom. To Mustafa, the well-beloved, the chosen, light of his day, embrace of his night, I waited for 12 years, happy in the belief that he would return on the ship that would bring him back to his island. And this happened in the month of harvests, which filled his heart with joy, soon to be saddened because he thought of this city, of many days of pain and long nights of loneliness. And who can leave without sorrow his pain and his loneliness? Much of me remained in these streets. I leave not just a tunic but my own skin, not just my hunger and thirst but my own heart. But I cannot stay, because the sea calls me, because I cannot be imprisoned in a mold. Life does not allow anything or anyone to remain still, for life is in motion, and I cannot take anything with me, like the voice cannot take the tongue and lips that gave it wings. The voice must march alone without sound, like the eagle that flies facing the sun. When the ship reached the port, Mustafa saw the sailors, men of his land, and heard his soul telling them, "Sons of my mother, riders of the tides, how many times did you sail the sea of my dreams, you who arrive in my awakening, my deepest dream now that my sails are unfurled, waiting for the wind that will bring them back to your bosom. In a moment, after looking back lovingly, I will be with you. I will be one more sailor on the wide sea, mother without sleep, the peace and freedom of streams and rivers. There I will be one more drop in the infinite sea." As he walked towards the ship, Mustafa saw men and women coming to meet him, and he thought, will this be the day of departure, of the encounter? Will it be my twilight, my dawn? And what can I offer to those who left their ploughs and looms to come bid me farewell? Will my heart become a tree laden with fruit for them? Can I become the source that fills their cups? Will I be a harp in the hands of God, or the flute through which their breath arrives, the one that creates mountains, forests, and deserts? I, seeker of silences, will find in them a treasure to leave behind. And if this is my harvest day, in which field will the fruit of my seed be found? If this is the hour to lift my torch, it will not be my call that lights the night, but the oil of the night's guardian that will ignite it. Thus spoke his words, but his heart remained silent when the farmers and their women, the young and the old, said to him, "Do not leave us yet. Remember, you were the noon of our twilight. You taught us to dream with your youth. Remember, here you are not a stranger nor a guest, but our well-beloved son, whom our eyes will hunger for when we do not see you." The priests and priestesses said to him, "Let the waves of the sea not separate us. May the years we shared not turn into memories. As a spirit, you walked among us. Your shadow was the guiding light. Few were our words, but great was our love. Yet now we shout it to you, for such is love that only realizes its magnitude at the moment of parting." Mustafa did not respond. He only bowed his head and wept as he walked towards the square in front of the temple, where Mitra, the seer, emerged to say, "Prophet of God, seeker of infinites, at last the ship you awaited has arrived. Therefore we do not wish to bind you with our love, nor do we wish our needs to halt your steps. We only ask that before you depart, you leave us the words with which to nourish our children and the children of our children. Your solitude was the sentinel of our days. You know the cry of our vigil and the laughter of our dreams. Thus, we ask you to reveal ourselves to ourselves, to tell us what you know of life and death." Mustafa asked, "How can I speak of what resonates in your souls?" And he himself answered, "Speak to us of love." Then Mustafa said, "When love calls you, follow it, even though its ways are hard and steep. And when it envelops you with its wings, yield to it, even though the sword hidden among its feathers may wound you. And when love speaks to you, believe in it, even though its voice may shatter your dreams as the north wind lays waste the garden. Believe in it even though its voice alters your dreams, as the north wind alters gardens, because love gives as it crucifies, impoverishes as it enriches us, lifts to the most flowering branches as it lowers to the deepest and saddest roots, populates like jungles or strips bare like deserts, makes tender like spikes or hardens like stones. Love that prepares us for the sacred fire that will turn us into the sacred bread of God. Love does this with us, so we may know the secrets of our hearts, so we may understand that we are part of the heart of life. But if out of fear you seek only the peace and pleasures of love, then it is better that you clothe yourselves and depart from its thresholds towards a world without seasons, where you will laugh only a little, not with complete joy, and shed a few tears, not all, because only in love is there completeness, the love that gives itself, the love that takes from itself, the love that possesses neither can be possessed, for love suffices unto itself. Therefore, when you love, do not say, God is in my heart, but rather, I am in the heart of God. And do not believe that you can direct the course of love, for love, if it finds you worthy, will direct you. The wondrous love that wishes to be realized, that must be realized because it is the reason of the universe, thus it populates us and surrounds us. The love that makes you flow like the stream, murmuring its melody in the silence of the night. The love that makes you feel the pain of passion. The love that makes you bleed as fully as joyfully. The love that puts wings on your heart every morning, making you grateful for one more day of love. The love that brings you back home as evening falls. The love that makes you sleep with a song of praise on your lips. The minister asked, "Master, what do you say about marriage?" And Mustafa said, "They were born together, and they will always be together, even though the wings of death may confuse your days, and together they will be in the silent memory of God. But let spaces grow in your union. Let the winds of heaven dance between you. Love each other, but do not make a bond of love a prison, but rather a sea rocking between the shores of your souls. Fill your cups, but do not drink from the same one. Share your bread, but not from the same loaf. Sing and dance together and be joyous, but let each of you retain the solitude to withdraw into it when necessary. Remember that the strings of the lute are separate though they quiver with the same music. Offer your hearts, but do not let them be possessed, for only life can contain your hearts. Stand together, but not too near together. For the pillars that hold up the temple stand apart, and the oak tree and the cypress tree do not grow in each other's shadow, nor too close that they might suffocate, nor too far that they cannot protect each other. Let there be space between you so that the winds of life may pass through with all their promises." A woman with a child in her arms asked, "Masters, speak to us about children." Then Mustafa said, "Your children are not yours. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children as living arrows are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Therefore you must leave your worry in the hands of the archer, who will joyfully transform it gracefully, the archer who loves the arrow that flies as much as the bow that shoots it. A wealthy man asked, "Master, speak to us of charity." And Al-Mustafa said, "You give very little when you give of your possessions. Only when you give of yourself are you truly giving. Your possessions are only things you hoard out of fear for tomorrow. What will tomorrow bring to the cautious dog that buries bones in the sand while following pilgrims on the path to the holy city? It is not fear of need, but need itself. When the well is full, it is fear that makes you feel an insatiable thirst. Some give a little of their much in search of gratitude, but this desire diminishes the value of their charity. Yet others give what little they have. They give everything because they believe in life's generosity, which is a chest that never empties. The pleasure of giving is your reward, just as giving in pain is your autism. But there are those who give without pain or pleasure, without feeling virtuous. They give like the flower gives its fragrance to the air, like the rain gives itself to the earth, like the streams serve the bird. And it is through these selfless hands that God speaks. From the depths of those eyes, God smiles upon the world. The God who reminds us that it is good to give when asked, but better to give before being asked, listening to our hearts. To generous souls, it brings more joy to seek the needy. In any case, nothing can be kept. Everything must be returned when the day comes. So give now that the season of giving may belong to you and not to your children. Often I hear people say, "I would give, but only to those who deserve it." Your field's trees do not speak thus, nor do your herds give to live, for hoarding is death. And he who is worthy of receiving the days and nights deserves to receive from you the same, namely, everything. Whoever has drunk from the river of life deserves to fill their cup from our stream. And he asked, "Who are you to see the merits and dignity of us naked? First, see if you deserve to be donors. The instruments of the gift are actually life-giving to life. You are just witnesses and those who receive because we are all recipients, so don't burden yourself with the weight of gratitude so as not to be chained or to chain those who gave you. Exaggerate your gratitude instead of their generosity that comes from the open-hearted Mother Earth and the Father God who gives in everything because he is all." An elder asked, "Master, speak to us of food and drink." And Al-Mustafa said, "Would that you could live on the fragrance of the earth, be like plants nourished by light. But since you must kill to eat and rob the newly born of their milk to quench your thirst, let these be acts of worship. Let your table be an altar where the pure and innocent of forest, meadow, and sea are sacrificed for the purest and most innocent in man. Speak to your heart when you have to kill an animal, saying, 'By the same power that sacrifices, you I will be sacrificed. By consuming you I will be consumed. As I feed, I shall be fed.' Tell the animal, 'The law that placed you in my hand will place me in stronger hands. Your blood and mine are the sap that feeds the tree of heaven. And when you bite into an apple, say in your heart, your seeds will inhabit my body. The buds of your tomorrow will bloom in my heart, and your fragrance will be my breath. That is to say, together we will enjoy the seasons of eternity. And when you harvest the grapes of your vineyards, say in your heart, I too am a vineyard, and my fruit will be wine kept in eternal vessels. And when you drink the wine, sing in gratitude so that at that moment the memory of the vineyard and the winepress may vibrate." A laborer asked, "Master, speak to us of work." Then Al-Mustafa said, "And they work to keep pace with the earth and the soul of the earth, because to do nothing is to step away from the seasons, to step away from the dance of life that moves gracefully and majestically towards the infinite. When they work, they become the flute that turns deeds into a beautiful melody, harmonizing with the symphony that is the universe. Therefore, work is not a punishment or a curse, but a part of the earth's dream. Thus, in working, they are loving life, and to love life through work is to know its secrets. But to those who believe it is a pain to be born, and who carry a curse on their foreheads, I say only the sweat brought on by work can erase it, for reflection and new beginnings. Life is darkness without work, but all blind activity, and there is no knowledge, as all knowledge is in vain without work, if not confirmed by work, as all work is empty without love, because to work with love is to harmonize with yourselves, with others, and with God, that is, with everything. To work with love is to weave the cloth with threads from your heart, as if your beloved and yourselves were to wear that cloth. To work with love is to build a house with affection, as if your beloved were to live in it, and to sow with tenderness and reap with joy, as if your beloved were to feed on those fruits. To work with love is to illuminate all things with your spirit, to pay homage to those who gave you life. I hear you say in dreams that he who works in marble and is already in the stone the shape of his soul is nobler than he who ploughs the fields, than he who captures the rainbow in a cloth is nobler than he who makes sandals. But I tell you not in dreams but in full wakefulness that the wind speaks with the same tenderness to the towering oaks as to the smallest herbs, and that it is not the one who transforms the voice of the wind into music, nor the one who transforms any act into beauty thanks to love and work, is the presence of love. Make doors or sculptures, and if you cannot work with love, if you do it with disgust, leave the task and sit at the temple entrance to ask for lemon from those who work with joy, because if Amazon bread with indifference, they are making a bitter bread that will not satisfy the hunger of their brothers, and if they step on the grapes with a bad mood, they will poison the wine. And even though they sing like angels, if they do not love the song, they are preventing others from hearing the voices of the day and of the night, that is, the voices of life. And if it is not to declare life, why sing? Suddenly a woman approached and asked, "Master, speak to us of joy and sorrow." Then Al-Mustafa said, "Your joy is your sorrow unmasked, because the same well from which your laughter rises was sometimes filled with tears. Therefore, the greater the sorrow, the greater the joy that follows it. The cup that holds your wine was burned in the potter's oven, and the lute that soothes your spirit was carved with knives from the wood. When you are joyful, look deep into your heart, and you shall find it is only that which has given you sorrow that is giving you joy. When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight. Some say joy is greater than sorrow, and others say sorrow is the greater. But I say they are inseparable. Together they come, and when one sits alone with you at your board, remember that the other is asleep upon your bed. Verily, they are woven together, and they shall be one as long as the guardian of the treasure calls them to weigh his gold and silver. Your joy or your sorrow will tilt the scales one way or another?" A mason asked, "Master, speak to us of houses." Then the youth said, "Imagine with your hearts a thatched hut in the jungle that would be better than building a house within city walls. Because even in your old age, you will long for a home in the same way the wandering youth amongst you will prefer the road and solitude, the thrilling discoveries of the moment and freedom. For your body is the best dwelling, growing under the sun and sleeping in the embrace of night, between the mysterious inhabitants of dawn. In dreams, our bodies leave the city in search of forest and mountain. If only I could hold your houses in my hands, like the sower holds the vine to the hills and plains, so that the valleys could be your avenues, and the grass and flowers your streets, so that you might come together to converse in the vineyards, and return home with the earth's fragrance on your clothing. But now is not the time for this to happen. Just as your ancestors were not yet overwhelmed by the fear of the city, so too do the walls of your city still separate your homes from fields, forests, mountains, and seas. And now I ask you, what do you have in these houses that you guard behind doors and locks? Do you have peace, the serenity that betrays your power? Do you have memories that illuminate your mind, the beauty that uplifts your heart from wooden and stone houses to the sacred mountain? Do you possess in your houses not just comfort and the desire for more comfort, but wishes that enter like ghosts and go from guest to lord of your house, ruling over your greatest desires? Desire has silk hands, but an iron heart, a prideful dreamer who only longs to touch flesh to degrade it. The desire mocks your senses, then throws them out the window, a desire for comfort that kills the passion of the soul, then accompanies you with grimaces and laughter to the funeral. But you creatures of space, the restless, who feel no rest, will not be caught or taken. Your house will be a mast, not an anchor, not a bandage covering a wound, but an eyelid protecting the pupil. You will not fold your wings to cross the threshold, nor will you bow your head to avoid hitting the ceiling, nor will you fear that breathing the walls will collapse. That is to say, you will not dwell in the tombs that the dead make for the living. And even if your house is splendid, it will not imprison your secret or suffocate your desires, because what is infinite in you dwells in the house of heaven, whose door is the morning mist, and whose windows are the songs and silences of the night. A weaver asked, "Speak to us of clothing." Then Al-Mustafa said, "Your clothing hides much of your beauty, but it does not conceal your ugliness. It is more a chain than a personal seal. That is why it would be good to meet the sun with more of your skin and less of your clothing. Because the breath of life throbs in sunlight and the hand of life in the wind. They say that the northern wind wove the clothes we wear, and I believe it wove them on the loom of shame, and that its daughter was weak-minded, and when the work was finished she laughed in the midst of the forest. Therefore, remember that modesty is not a shield against impure eyes, and when there is no impure, what will modesty be, if not chains and mind garbage? The earth delights in feeling your bare feet, and the wind enjoys playing with your hair." A merchant asked, "Master, speak to us of buying and selling." Then Al-Mustafa said, "The earth offers you its fruits. Therefore, by simply learning to fill your hands, you will not know hunger, and in the exchange of the earth's fruits, you will find abundance and satisfaction. But if the exchange is not made with love and justice, it will lead some to greed and many to hunger. When you merchants of the sea, of the fields, of the vineyards, meet weavers, potters, and spice growers in the marketplace, invoke the spirit of the earth to accompany your dealings, and sanctify the scales and measures so that the exchange of values is correct. Do not allow intermediaries to participate in your transactions, for they will want to sell their words at the price of your labor. To those men with sterile hands say, 'Come with us to the fields, go with our brothers to the sea,' and you will see that the earth and the sea will be as generous with you as they are with us. And if you encounter singers and dancers, buy what they offer, for they too are gatherers of fruits and incenses, and what they bring, though made of dreams, is shelter and nourishment for your spirit. Do not leave the marketplace until you ensure that no one leaves with empty hands, for the spirit of the earth will not sleep peacefully on the wind until the needs of the smallest among you are satisfied." One of the judges of the city asked, "Master, speak to us of crime and punishment." Then Al-Mustafa said, "To harm others is to harm oneself, for the God of yourself dwells not alone within your being, where there is still much that is human and much that is not, a grotesque figure walking asleep amidst the fog, seeking its own awakening. Often I hear you speak of someone who has committed a crime as if they were not one of you but a stranger, someone from another world. But I tell you that just as the holiest and the most just cannot rise above the highest in each of us, neither can the weak and the wicked fall lower than the lowest in each of us. And just as not a leaf turns yellow without the knowledge of the tree, neither can the wicked do evil without the hidden will of all of you. For like pilgrims, you all walk together towards the God of yourself, and you are the path and the traveler. And he who falls is the fault of those who came before, the swifter and surer who in their passing did not remove obstacles from the path. That is to say, the murdered one is responsible for their own murder, and the thief for their own theft, and the just one is concerned with the acts of the wicked, and the pure one is not removed from the conduct of the impure. For often the condemned is the victim of the offended, and frequently the king also bears the guilt of the innocent. Therefore you cannot separate the just from the unjust, nor the good from the evil, for they are together beneath the sun, just as the white thread and the black thread are together in the fabric. Therefore, when one of the two breaks, the weaver checks the entire cloth back to the loom. So, if you bring an unfaithful woman to trial, also weigh the heart of her husband and the truth of his soul in the balance, and let the one who wishes to punish the offender first examine the spirit of the offended. And if any of you wishes to punish in the name of justice, swing the axe against the evil trunk first, look at your own roots, and surely you will find the roots of good and evil, of the fruitful and the sterile, intertwined together in the silent heart of the earth. And you judges who claim to be just, what judgment will you pronounce against one who, though honest in flesh, is a thief in spirit? What sentence will you impose on one who kills in flesh when they themselves have been slain in spirit? And how will you judge one whose actions are deceitful and tyrannical, yet who is also offended and humiliated? How will you punish those who have greater remorse than their offense, or no remorse at all? Remorse cannot be imposed in the heart of the innocent, nor can it be erased from the heart of the guilty, for the night will come to awaken men, to scrutinize their hearts. And you who believe yourselves called to understand justice and injustice, how will you do so if you do not look at deeds in the light of day? Only thus will you know that both the one standing and the fallen are one man standing at dusk between the night of his own grotesque and the day of the God of his own, and that the cornerstone of time is not superior to the deepest stone in its foundations. A jurist asked, "Master, what do you say about our laws?" Then Al-Mustafa replied, "You delight in making them, but you delight more in mocking them, like children playing on the beach who patiently build sandcastles only to destroy them amidst laughter. But the sea continues to bring sand to the beach. So when you destroy our castles, the sea laughs with you. The sea always laughs with the innocent. But what about those for whom life is not a sea, and the laws of men are not sandcastles? What about those for whom life is a rock, and the law a chisel with which they carve their own figure into the rock? What about the paralytic who hates dancers? What about the ox that loves its yoke and thinks the deer is a lawless vagabond? What about the old serpent that cannot shed its skin and calls the others naked and shameless? What about the one who arrives early at the feast and when tired of eating leaves saying that feasts are violations of the law? What can I say about them except that they receive sunlight like everyone else, but with their backs turned, seeing only their shadows, and their shadows are their laws? They obey the laws and do not stoop to trace shadows on the earth. But you who walk facing the sun, what shadows cast upon the ground can stop you? You who travel with the wind, which weather vane will mark your path? What human law will be able to bind you if you break your yoke? But not against the gates of prisons built by men. What law will they fear if, while dancing, they do not stumble upon iron chains of men? Who will bring them before judges and tear their garments, but not abandon them in anyone's field? Happy golden people can cover the drum. They can loosen the lyre strings, but who will prevent the skylark from singing? An orator asked, "Master, speak to us about freedom." Then Al-Mustafa said, "At the city gate and by the fire of your homes, I have seen you on your knees, worshipping your own freedom like slaves who humiliate themselves before the tyrant and praise him while he torments them in the garden of time, in the shadow of the citadel. I have seen the freest among you carry your freedom like a yoke, like a chain, and my heart bleeds because you will only be free when you stop speaking of freedom as a goal. You will truly be free when your days do not pass without worries, when your nights are not empty of necessity or sorrow. You will be free when these things beset you on all sides, but you, naked and unbound, rise above them. But how can you rise above your days and nights without first breaking the chains you placed at the dawn of your understanding around your midday? That which you call freedom is the strongest of your chains, even if its links shine in the sun. And what if it is fragments of your own self that you wish to discard in order to be free? If you wish to abolish an unjust law, know that this law was written by your own hands, upon your own foreheads. Therefore you cannot erase it by burning your codes or washing the foreheads of your judges, even if the sea rages upon them. And if it is a tyrant you wish to overthrow, take care that the throne erected for him within you is also destroyed. For how can the tyrant subdue the free, if in his own freedom there is no tyranny or shame in his own pride? And if it is restlessness you wish to erase, remember that this restlessness was chosen by you, no one imposed it upon you. And if it is fear you wish to erase, know that it resides in your heart, not in the fist of the feared. Because all things grow within you in constant embrace, the things you desire and the things you fear, the things you reject in those you love, the things you pursue and those you avoid. All these things stir within you like paired lights and shadows, and when the shadows fade, the remaining light turns into the shadow of another light. Thus, your freedom, when it sheds its chains, becomes the chains of another, greater freedom. The priestess spoke again, "Master, speak to us of reason and passion." Then Al-Mustafa said, "Often your soul is the battlefield where your reason and judgments battle against your passion and appetites. I wish I could be the peacemaker of your soul, turning the discord and confrontation of your elements into unity and harmony. But how could I do this without you becoming the peacemakers yourselves, lovers of all your elements? Reason and passion are the rudder and sails of your navigating soul. Therefore, if the sails or the rudder break, you will drift or remain motionless in the vastness of the sea. For if reason rules alone, it is a force that limits, and unbridled passion is a flame that burns to destruction. Therefore let your soul exalt, let your reason rise to the height of passion so that it may sing, and let your soul guide passion with reasoning so that it may live in its daily resurrection, like the phoenix rising from its own ashes. Consider your judgment and your appetite as two beloved guests. Give no more honor to one than to the other, for he who pays more attention to one than to the other will end up losing the affection and trust of both when they sit in the shade of the poplars in the peace and tranquility of the countryside. Let your heart silently say, God rests reason, and when the storm comes, when the hurricane shakes the forest, and the thunder proclaims the authority of heaven, let your overwhelmed heart say, goodbye, work in passion. And since you are a breath in the sphere of God and a leaf in the forest of God, rest in reason and work in passion. A woman asked, Master, speak to us of pain. Then Al-Mustafa said, Your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. Like the seed of the fruit must break, so that its heart may stand in the sun. Thus you must know pain and accept it as you accept the seasons that pass over our fields. Then, serene, you will watch in the winters of your pain, and you will also understand that many of your pains were chosen by you. The bitter remedy with which the doctor we all carry within covers your illnesses. So trust in the doctor and drink his remedy, for his hand, though hard and heavy, is guided by the tender hand of God, and the cup he offers has been molded, though it may burn your lips with the clay moistened by his own sacred tears. A man asked, Master, speak to us of self-knowledge. Then Al-Mustafa said, In silence, your hearts know the secrets of days and nights, but your ears long to hear the echo of your heart's knowledge. They wish to know in words what they have always known in thought. They wish to touch with your fingers the naked body of your dreams. And it is good that it should be so. The deep spring of your soul needs to well up and run singing to the sea. Then your treasure would reveal itself to your eyes. But do not wish to weigh the unknown treasure on scales, nor explore the depths of your knowledge with picks and shovels, for the self is an infinite sea. Therefore do not say, I have found the truth, but rather, I have found a truth. Do not say, I have found the path of the soul, but rather, I have found the soul walking upon my path, for the soul walks upon all paths. The soul does not walk in a line, nor does it grow like a reed. The soul unfolds itself like a lotus of countless petals. A teacher asked, Speak to us of teaching. Then Al-Mustafa said, No one can reveal anything to you that is not already asleep in the dawn of your knowledge. Therefore, the teacher who walks in the shadow of the temple among his disciples does not give his wisdom but rather his faith and affection. And if he is indeed wise, he does not bid you enter the house of his wisdom, but rather leads you to the threshold of your own mind. The astronomer may speak to you of his understanding of space, but he cannot give you his understanding. The musician may sing to you of the rhythm which is in all space, but he cannot give you the ear which arrests the rhythm, nor the voice that echoes it. The mathematician can only speak of the relationships of quantities, but he cannot conduct you to the understanding. For the vision of one man lends not its wings to another man. And as each one of you stands alone in the knowledge of God, so must each one of you stand alone in the knowledge of the earth. A youth asked, Speak to us of friendship. Then Al-Mustafa said, Your friend is your needs answered. He is your field which you sow with love and reap with thanksgiving. And he is your board and your fireside. For you come to him with your hunger and you seek him for peace. And when he speaks to you, believe in him, though his voice may shatter your dreams, as the north wind lays waste the garden. For even as love crowns you, so shall he crucify you. Even as he is for your growth, so is he for your pruning. And even as he ascends to your height, and caresses your tenderest branches that quiver in the sun, so shall he descend to your roots, and shake them in their clinging to the earth. Like sheaves of corn he gathers you unto himself. He threshes you to make you naked. He sifts you to free you from your husks. He grinds you to whiteness. He kneads you until you are pliant. And then he assigns you to his sacred fire, that you may become sacred bread for God's sacred feast. A humanist asked, "Speak to us of conversation." Then Al-Mustafa said, "You talk when you cease to be at peace with your thoughts. And when you can no longer dwell in the solitude of your heart, you live in your lips, and sound is a diversion and a pastime. And in much of your talking, thinking is half murdered. For thought is a bird of space that in a cage of words may indeed unfold its wings, but cannot fly. There are those among you who seek the talkative through fear of being alone. The silence of aloneness reveals to their eyes their naked selves, and they would escape. And there are those who talk, and without knowledge or forethought reveal a truth which they themselves do not understand. And there are those who have the truth within them, but they tell it not in words. In the bosom of such as these the spirit dwells in rhythmic silence. When you meet your friend on the roadside or in the marketplace, let the spirit in you move your lips and direct your tongue, and let the voice within your voice speak to the ear of his ear, for his soul will keep the truth of your heart, as the taste of the wine is remembered when the color is forgotten and the vessel is no more. An astronomer asked, "Master, what of time?" Al-Mustafa said, "I would measure time, the infinite. Would you adjust it to your conduct, direct the march of your spirit, set it in seasons as exact as those of the earth? Would you make of time a river, sitting by its banks to watch it flow? But the infinite within you knows the infinitude of life, knows that yesterday is but today's memory, and tomorrow is today's dream, and that what sings and contemplates within you comes from the first moment when stars were spread across the sky. Therefore, your capacity for love is limitless. But if your understanding must measure time by seasons, let each season enfold all others, with the present embracing the past with nostalgic longing and the future with loving anticipation." An elder asked a master, "Speak to us of good and evil." Then Al-Mustafa said, "I can speak to you of the good that is within you, not of evil. For what is evil but good tortured by its own hunger and thirst? When good is hungry, it seeks food even in dark caves, and when it thirsts, it drinks even from stagnant waters. They are good when they are one with themselves, but how many are not one with themselves? They are not evil, for a divided house is not a den of thieves. It is only a divided house. A ship without a rudder may sail perilously among the rocks without sinking. They are good when they give of themselves, but they are not evil when they seek gain for themselves. For when they strive to gain something, they are like roots that cling to the earth and suck from its breast. The fruit does not say to the root, 'Be like me, ripe and full, giving all.' For to the fruit giving is a necessity, but to the root receiving is. They are good when they are aware of what they say, but they are not evil when they are confused and say anything. For hesitation may strengthen a weak tongue. They are good when they move towards the goal steadfastly, but they are not evil when they limp, for not even those who limp retreat. But you who are strong and swift should not limp in front of the lame out of pity, for each must live what was given to them. They are good in many ways, but they are not evil when they are not good, only lazy and indifferent. Pity that servants cannot teach their speed to turtles. In your longing for a higher self rests your good, and that longing is in everyone. Only in some it is a torrent rushing forcefully towards the sea, carrying the secrets of the hills and the songs of the forest. In others it is a weak stream that fades and weakens among the bushes, consuming futile efforts. Therefore it rarely reaches the sea. But one who longs much should not say to one who desires little that they are slow and fearful, for the good does not ask the naked where their clothes are, nor the wanderer where their home is. A priestess asked, "Master, speak to us of prayer." Then Al-Mustafa said, "Your distress and your needs lead you to prayer, But you must also pray in the fullness of joy and abundance. For prayer should be the expansion of yourselves into the universal soul. For if you pour out your pain into the space, you must also pour out the joys of your heart in prayer. They rise to meet those who are praying at that moment, whom you will never meet outside of prayer. So strive that your visit to this invisible temple is for this communion. For if you enter the temple to ask, you will not receive. And if you enter to be humbled, you will not be lifted up. And if you do it to pray for others, they will not hear you. It is only necessary that you enter the invisible temple. Nor can I teach you to pray with words, for God does not heed your words, unless it is He who speaks through you. I cannot teach you the prayer of the seas, the forests, and the mountains, but you born of mountains, forests, and seas can find your prayer in your heart. And if you are attentive, you will hear Him say in the stillness and silence of the night, Lord, it is your wings that we desire. It is your will that we seek. It is you who longs within us, this impulse that turns our felt nights into yours, Lord. Therefore we can ask nothing of you, for you know our needs before we do. You who are our need, thus giving ourselves to you, we receive everything. An hermit who visited the city stepped forward and said, Son, speak to us of pleasure. Then Al-Mustafa replied, Pleasure is a song of freedom, but it is not freedom. It is the flowering of your desires, but not their fruit. It is an abyss calling out to its own summit, but it is neither the abyss nor the summit. It is the caged one who grows wings, yet it is not the enclosed space. Pleasure is a song of freedom, and I would have you sing it with all your heart, yet I would not have you lose your heart in the singing. Some believe pleasure is everything, and thus they are judged and censured. But I would neither judge nor censure them, I would let them seek. For when they find pleasure, they will see that many are its sisters, and the ugliest among them is more beautiful than pleasure itself. Surely you know the story of the man who, digging the earth for roots, found a treasure. Your elders recall their pleasures, regrets as errors committed in the midst of drunkenness, yet regret is only a cloud upon the brow, not the punishment. Therefore you should remember your pleasures with gratitude, as one remembers summer harvests. But if they are eased by regret, let them repent. Among you are some who are neither young to seek nor old to remember, and out of fear of seeking and remembering, they shun pleasures so as not to offend the spirit. But in renouncing their pleasure in that way, they find their treasure, though they dig for roots with trembling hands. But I ask you, who can offend the spirit? Can the nightingale offend the silence of the night? Can the glowworm offend the stars? Can your smoke bother the wind? Do you think the spirit is stagnant water that can be clouded with a branch? By renouncing pleasure, you are storing desires in the linings of your being. Therefore, what you repress today will sprout tomorrow, for your body knows its heritage and its needs, and it does not want to be deceived. Your body is the harp of your soul, and upon you depends whether you draw from it beautiful music or frightful sounds. Ask your heart how to distinguish in pleasure what is good from what is bad. Go to your fields and gardens, and you will see that the pleasure of the bee is to bring honey from the flower, and the pleasure of the flower is to offer honey to the bee. For to the bee a flower is a source of life, and to the flower a bee is a messenger of love. Therefore, for the bee and the flower, giving and receiving pleasure are a necessity and an ecstasy. Dear brothers, be in your pleasures like the flowers and the bees. A poet asked, Master, speak to us of beauty. Then Al-Mustafa said, Where to seek beauty? What to do to find it? Is it not your path and your guide? The humbled and the offended say beauty is kind and abundant, walking among us like a young mother, almost ashamed of her own glory. And the passionate say beauty is made of strength and terror, like the storm that makes the earth tremble. The bored one says beauty is made of soft murmurs in our spirit, its voice invading our silence like a dim light trembling in the shadow. The restless one says beauty screams among the mountains, and the echo of its cries is the beating of wings and the emergence of beasts in the night. The city's guardians say beauty will come with the dawn, and at dusk the farmers and the wanderers say we have seen it leaning over the earth from the twilight windows. The one besieged by snow says it will come with spring, skipping over the hills, and in the heat of summer The reapers say we saw it dancing among the autumn leaves with whirlwinds of snow in its hair. All this they said of beauty, but they did not speak of it, rather of your unsatisfied needs. Beauty is not a necessity, it is an ecstasy. Beauty is not a thirsty mouth or an empty hand pleading, but a burning heart and an enchanted soul. Beauty is not the image you want to see or the song you want to hear, but something visible even with eyes closed, a song heard even with ears covered. Beauty is not the sap running beneath the bark of a tree or a wing attached to a claw without a garden eternally in bloom, a flock of angels eternally in flight. Beauty is life taking flight to show its essential and sacred face, but you are both life and the veil. Beauty is eternity gazing at itself in a mirror, but you are eternity and the mirror. An old priest asked, "Speak to us of religion." Then Al-Mustafa said, "Am I speaking of anything else?" No. Religion is not acts and thoughts alone, nor is it even what is neither act nor thought, but a miracle and a surprise sprouting from the soul. Religion is carving stone, weaving on the loom, working the soil, carrying grain to the river. Can anyone separate their faith from their works or their beliefs from their labors? Who can measure their hours and say, "This is for God and this is for me, this is for my spirit and this is for my body"? All your hours are wings that carry you from being to doing. The one who uses morality as their best garment would do better to walk naked so that wind and sun might crack their skin. The one who rules their life by rules in a cage to their singing bird, and the freest song does not come from cages. And the one for whom worship is a window, both to open and to close, does not know the dwelling of the Spirit that has its windows always open. Your daily life is your temple and your religion. And enter into that temple with your plough and forge, with hammer, lute, and everything you do out of necessity or whimsy, for in your dreams you cannot rise above your triumphs, nor fall lower than your failures. And you carry with you all men in worship. You cannot fly higher than your hopes, nor humble yourself lower than your despair. If you knew God, you would not have puzzles to solve. Look around, and you will see him playing with your children. Lift your head, and you will see him walking on the clouds, spreading his arms in the lightning and descending in the rain. If you are attentive, you will see him smiling in the flowers and rising afterward to wave his hands in the trees. Mitra asked, "Master, speak to us of death." Then Al-Mustafa said, "The secret of death must be sought in the heart of life, as the owl sees in the night what it does not see in the day. To know the spirit of death, one must open the heart to all things of life, for life and death are one, like the river and the sea. In the deepest of your hopes lies knowledge of the beyond, seeds dreaming under the snow as your heart dreams of spring. Therefore trust in your dreams, for therein lies the path to eternity. The fear you have of death is but the trembling of the shepherd before the king, who will honor him by placing his hands upon him. Thus beneath your fear the shepherd is content, for he knows he will bear the king's seal, which makes him more aware of his trembling. And what is dying but standing naked in the wind and melting into the sun? What is ceasing to breathe but releasing your breath from its restless tides, so it may rise and expand towards God? They will sing only when they drink tea on the river of silence. They will dance truly only when the earth has your bones. Night had come when Mitra the seer said, "Blessed be this day and this place, for your spirit has spoken." Then Al-Mustafa replied, "Not only I spoke, but also the one who listened to me." Later Al-Mustafa ascended the ship's deck and said, "People of Ur, fortunate in faith, the wind commands me to leave you. Though I am less hurried than the wind, I must depart. For we wanderers who always seek the loneliest path, we do not begin a day where we ended the previous one. There is no dawn that does not find us where twilight left us. For we travel even when the earth sleeps. We are seeds of a resilient plant that, when matured in heart, surrender ourselves to the wind to be scattered among our brothers. Few were my years among you, and even fewer my words. But if my voice dies in your ears and my memories fade in your memory, I will return with a heart more full, with a tongue more obedient to the Spirit, to tell you everything I have to say, to remind you of everything you must remember. I will return with the tide, and though death may hide me and silence may envelop me, I will seek your spirit and not seek in vain. For if anything I have said is true, that truth will manifest itself with a clearer voice. I go with the wind, but not into emptiness. And if this day fills your needs and my love, let it be a promise until that day comes when man's needs change, but not his love, nor his desire that this love satisfy his needs. Know that I will return from silence, like the mist that dissipates at dawn, leaving dew on the fields, turning into clouds to return as rain. I was not different from the mist. For in the stillness of nights I walked your streets, and my spirit entered your homes, to feel the beats of your hearts in mine, and your breath on my face. Therefore I know your joys and your sorrows, therefore your dreams flourished in mine. I was among you like a lake among the mountains, reflecting your peaks and slopes, and even the passing of flocks of your thoughts and desires. Into my silences came in torrents the laughter of our children and the rivers of your youth, and even in the deepest parts of me, those torrents and rivers continued to sing. But something sweeter than laughter and more intense than longing came to me, and it was the infinity within you, the giant of whom you are no more than cells and muscles, the giant by whom you are giants. And seeing you, I loved you. For what can reach man that is not in that infinite sphere? What visions, what hopes can soar above that flight like a gigantic oak covered with flowers? It is the giant that lives within you, and its power binds you to the earth. Its fragrance lifts us, and in its eternity, you are immortal. They told you that you are as weak as the weakest links in a chain, but they did not tell you that you are also as strong as the strongest of your links. To measure you by the smallest is like measuring the power of the ocean by the fragility of its foam. To judge you by your failures is like blaming the seasons for their inconsistency. You are like a sea that, even though anchored ships await the tides on its shores, does not hasten them. You are like the seasons that, even though your winter denies your spring, are thus bloody in your dreams and singing in your vigils. And I am not praising you. I am only telling you how good you live. I say in words what you know in thought. For what else is the knowledge that words give but a shadow of the inexpressible knowledge? Your thoughts and my words are waves of a sealed memory that guards our yesterday, even to the days when the earth did not know us nor knew itself, before the night when chaos shook it. Afterwards came the wise men to bring you wisdom, which comes to learn from you who gave me something more, your burning spirit that constantly grows from itself, while you, unaware of its expansion, lament the withering of your days. But that is life seeking life in bodies that fear death without knowing that here there are no graves, for these mountains and these plains are cradle and stepping stone. Each time you pass through the field where your ancestors were buried, you will see yourselves and your children holding hands. That is why you often rejoice unknowingly. There were others who came to you with golden promises they never fulfilled, and to whom you said power and glory. Yet you did not doubt me. Generously you associated with me the deepest thirst after life, and I thank you greatly. For there is no greater gift to a man than that which turns his life into a source of fresh water. And that is my honor and my reward. Whenever I go to drink from the source, I find the water of life thirsty for me as I am thirsty for it. Some may believe me proud, evading gifts, and truly my pride does not allow me to receive wages, but gifts. Therefore I preferred to eat wild fruits on the hills when I was invited to your table. Therefore I decided to sleep on the temple porch when I was invited to your house. But it was not your kind zeal for my days and nights that made the food tastier to my palate and crowned my dreams with visions. I bless you for not knowing how much you gave me, for goodness that admires itself in the mirror turns to stone. Like a good deed that applauds itself becomes a curse. Some called me a solitary, intoxicated by my loneliness. Thus they said, "Speak to the trees of the forest, but not to men. Sit atop the highest mountains to see our city at your feet." It is true that I ascended the hills and walked in remote places, but it was to see you from a great distance and a great height. How can one be close without being far away? And others called me without words. They said, "Stranger, lover of the unreachable, why do you live on the peaks where eagles make their nests? What storms do you want to catch with your net? What birds do you house in the sky? Come down and join us, satisfy your hunger with our bread and your thirst with our wine." In the solitude of their souls, they said these things. But if your solitude had been deeper, you would have understood that I was seeking the secret of your joys and sorrows, that I walked the house of your being better than the one who walks on the heights. But the hunter was married, for many of my arrows pierced my own chest, and the one who flew also crawled. For when my wings unfolded in the sun, their shadows on the earth were a turtle, and I was the crescent moon. I was also the unbeliever, for often I put my finger on my own wound to have more confidence in you, to know you better. And with that trust and that knowledge, I tell you, do not confine yourselves within your bodies. Do not trust in the house. For what you are dwells in the mountains and wanders in the wind, not something that crawls, seeking the warmth of the sun or digs holes in the night for security, but something free, a spirit that envelops the earth and dances with the air. If my words are confusing, do not try to clarify them, for vague and nebulous is the beginning of all things, but not their end. Therefore, I would like you to remember me as a beginning. All things are conceived in mist, not in crystal, and who but crystal knows what mist is? In the twilight, I want you to remember this. Remember that in what seems weakest and most confusing to you is the strongest and most defined. Was it not your breath that gave life to your bones? Was it not a dream that none remembers dreaming that built your city and made everything in it? And if it were possible to see some of that breath and hear the murmurs of that dream, you would not hear them in other sounds. But you do not see or hear, and that is okay. For the veil that clouds your eyes will be torn by the hands that wove it, and the clay that is for your ears will now be given by the fingers that passed it. Then you will see and hear, and you will not regret having known that blindness or having been deaf, for on that day you will discover the hidden purposes in everything. Then you will go both into darkness and into light. After saying this, Al-Mustafa looked around and saw the captain of his ship ready to depart. Then he said, "Patient is the captain of my ship. The wind blows and the sails are impatient. Yet my captain waits quietly, and so do the sailors who heard the great chorus of the sea. They listen to me patiently. But I am already ready. The stream has reached the sea again. The giant mother clasps her child to her breast. Goodbye, people of Orphalese. The day fades, but we will keep what it has given us. And if it is not enough, we will come together again and extend our hands to the giver. Do not forget that I will return among you. In a moment, my eagerness will gather my body with the foam for another body. In a moment, I will rest in the wind, and another woman will give birth to me. I bid you farewell in the youth we spent together, in the yesterday that brought us together in the same dream. With your songs and my solitude, we built a tower in the sky, but our dreams have dissipated. Our dreaming has ended. We are at dawn. Noon overtakes us, and our reverie is fully on its way. We must depart. But if in the twilight of memory we meet again, we will speak anew, and once again you will sing to me the deepest song. And if your hands meet again in another dream, we will raise another tower toward the sky." Having said this, Al-Mustafa signaled to the sailors who raised the anchors, loosened the moorings, and set sail. Then a clamor rose from the people toward the sky. Only Al-Mitra remained silent, watching the ship vanish into the mist. And when the people dispersed, she continued to stand on the quay, remembering the words of Al-Mustafa, "In a moment, I will rest in the wind, and another woman will give birth to me."